The hotel receptionist looked at me with an apologetic smile and said the words that made my stomach drop, "I'm afraid there's only one room left." I turned toward the man standing beside me, already knowing what was coming. My work rival, Daniel, stared at the key card in the receptionist's hand, then slowly exhaled. "One bed. Don't overthink it." He said it like sharing a room with me was nothing more than an annoying line on a business itinerary. But he had no idea that by sunrise, would discover the secret he had been hiding behind all those sarcastic comments, competitive meetings, and cold smiles, and that secret would change the way I saw him forever. Before we continue, if you enjoy emotional stories about unexpected second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who loves heartfelt stories, leave a comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness for more stories about love, kindness, and second chances. My name is Emma, and for the past 3 years, Daniel Carter had been the one person at work I could never seem to defeat. We worked in the same department, competed for the same promotions, and somehow always ended up assigned to the same important projects. If I presented an idea, Daniel found a weakness in it. If he proposed something brilliant, I found a way to improve it. Our coworkers joked that we could turn a coffee break into a corporate battlefield. I pretended to hate the comparison, but secretly, it bothered me more than I admitted. Because behind every argument was something I didn't want to acknowledge, I respected him. Daniel was confident, intelligent, and frustratingly calm. He never raised his voice, never took credit for someone else's work, and never seemed bothered when I challenged him. Yet there was something distant about him. Whenever conversations became personal, he disappeared behind a wall. I had seen him stay late after everyone else left, sitting alone beneath the office lights. I had noticed the tiredness beneath his eyes, but whenever I asked if he was okay, he simply smiled and said he was fine. Then came the company retreat. Our entire team was sent to a beautiful mountain resort for a weekend designed to strengthen teamwork. Unfortunately, the resort had accidentally overbooked several rooms. By the time Daniel and I arrived at the front desk, exhausted after a long drive, the receptionist explained that our reservations had been combined because every other room was occupied. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Daniel looked at me. I looked at him. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he took the key card, sighed, and said, "One bed. Don't overthink it." I wanted to argue, but I was too tired. So we walked upstairs. The room was small but beautiful, with a large window overlooking dark mountains and a narrow balcony covered in mist. And there, exactly as promised, was one bed. Daniel dropped his suitcase near the wall and immediately told me he would sleep on the floor. I told him that was ridiculous. He insisted. I finally agreed that we would build a barrier between us using pillows and blankets. It felt awkward at first, but somehow, after a few minutes, we were laughing about how ridiculous the whole situation was. That night, something unexpected happened. A storm swept across the mountains. Thunder shook the windows, and the lights suddenly went out. The room fell completely dark. I froze. Daniel noticed. He didn't tease me. He didn't make a joke. He simply turned on the flashlight on his phone and sat nearby. I had never told anyone at work that thunderstorms frightened me. Somehow, he had noticed. We sat there listening to the rain, and for the first time, we talked without competing. I learned that Daniel had once been engaged. His fiancée had left him shortly before their wedding after secretly taking a job overseas. He had never blamed her publicly, but the experience had changed him. He stopped trusting people and started believing that depending on anyone was dangerous. Then he told me something that hurt more than I expected. His father had been sick for years, and Daniel had been secretly paying his medical expenses. The reason he worked so many late nights wasn't ambition. He needed the overtime and bonuses because his father's treatment was expensive. Suddenly, every late evening I had mistaken for arrogance looked completely different. I told him about my own fear of failure. I confessed that every time he challenged my ideas, I felt like he was proving I wasn't good enough. Daniel looked genuinely surprised. He admitted that he had always admired my determination and had never considered me weak. That conversation changed something between us. The next morning, we returned to the retreat as different people. Not lovers. Not even friends yet. But something warmer existed between us. Then everything went wrong. During the biggest presentation of the weekend, our manager accused Daniel of deliberately withholding important financial information from the team. The documents seemed to prove it. Everyone looked shocked. I watched Daniel's face fall. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He tried to explain, but the manager wouldn't listen. Daniel was suspended from the project pending an investigation. I could have stayed silent. After all, this was my chance to finally become the team's leading candidate for promotion. Instead, I remembered the man sitting beside me in the darkness, quietly admitting how much he feared losing the last family he had. I began checking the documents myself. Something didn't make sense. The timestamps had been altered. Someone had accessed Daniel's files after midnight, using credentials that didn't belong to him. I stayed awake until I found the missing connection. The fraudulent report had been created from a shared company account, and the person responsible had deliberately made it appear that Daniel had approved it. When I presented the evidence to management, the truth finally came out. A senior employee had manipulated the records to hide his own financial mistakes. Daniel was cleared. But he didn't celebrate. Instead, he found me outside the conference room and quietly thanked me. I told him he would have done the same for me. He looked at me for a long moment and said, "Maybe. But I hope you know you didn't have to." Those words stayed with me. When the retreat ended, we returned to the city and everything should have gone back to normal. But it didn't. Our arguments became playful. Our competition became teamwork. We started eating lunch together, sometimes without even realizing it. Daniel still challenged my ideas, and I still challenged his, but there was no bitterness anymore. Then, one Friday evening, I received a message from him asking if I could meet him at the same mountain resort. I assumed he was joking. He wasn't. When I arrived, he was standing on the balcony where we had watched the storm. He looked nervous. He told me his father had passed away peacefully a few weeks earlier. The treatment had finally stopped working, and Daniel had spent his last days beside him. He said his father had given him one piece of advice before he died: don't spend the rest of your life protecting yourself from losing people. You'll lose the chance to truly have them. Daniel looked at me and admitted that he had been thinking about those words ever since. Then he smiled. He said the night of the storm had changed everything because, for the first time in years, he had allowed himself to trust someone again. I didn't need him to say anything more. I stepped closer, and we stood together in the quiet mountain air, no competition between us, no office politics, no walls. Just two people who had unexpectedly found comfort in each other. Months later, our coworkers still joked about the retreat and the infamous overbooked room. They thought the story was funny. They didn't know what really happened. They didn't know that one uncomfortable night had given two wounded people the courage to stop judging each other by their defenses. They didn't know that sometimes the person you think is your greatest rival is simply someone fighting a battle you cannot see. And they certainly didn't know that the one-bed mistake had become the beginning of something neither of us had planned. Daniel and I never stopped challenging each other. But now, when one of us succeeded, the other celebrated. And when one of us struggled, the other stayed. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Sometimes a small act of understanding can change someone's entire life. And before you leave, comment, "I believe in second chances," if you believe that people can surprise us when we finally take the time to understand what they're carrying inside. Because sometimes, life doesn't bring the right person into your life in the way you expect. Sometimes, it sends them disguised as a rival, places them in the most uncomfortable situation imaginable, and waits for you to look past the surface. One room. One bed. One storm. And two people who discovered that the greatest distance between hearts isn't measured in miles. It's measured in the walls we build around them.